And welcome back to you. So we are going to continue with our discussion about how do we find God, how do we discover Him. Sometimes people will call this seeking God, sometimes people will call this different things, but at the end of the day we're trying to find out who God is, where He is, and how does He reveal Himself to us. So this is a new section where we're going to explore that very question. God needs to reveal Himself to us because we are human, we are finite, and we cannot comprehend God without His revelation. So let us explore and discuss this question. How does God reveal Himself then? Right? So we're going to talk a bit about different things, and there's a lot of ground to cover. So first thing first, by way of introduction, I believe that God has gone to great length in order to reveal Himself to us in one way or the other. So if you look at creation, this is one way that God has revealed Himself to us. Like I may have mentioned before, if you look at the world, like if no one created it, how does everything come to be? It is literally impossible. Just like a book needs an author, the world needs a creator. No tool, whether it's clay or bronze or silver or gold, can be made by itself. It doesn't just come to existence, right? You don't have an arrowhead or sword or anything without a creator. You don't have a bowl or a basin or a stool or table or chair or anything without someone creating it. So how can we believe that the world came to existence without someone creating it, right? So there's a story once of how these two people were talking, right? And this is a while back, and this guy was living in a tent, and then some guy visited him in the night, I guess, and he took a look, and so this traveler came by, and he invited him into his tent, and they had dinner and some refreshments, and over dinner, over the course of the meal, they talked, and it came to the topic of God, and the traveler asked, how can you even believe in God? Like, that's so ridiculous. So this person brought him out. Okay, the host brought him out, and looked outside his tent, and you look at the sand or the ground, and he says that how can you tell that a horse just passed by here? All right, how do you know it's not a camel or some other animal? So the person said, by the prints, the hoof prints, or you can tell by the footprints of the animal, hoof prints. And so the person said, exactly, you can tell that by its tracks, right? So he pointed up to the sky, and he said, look at those beautiful colors in the sky. How do you know the beautiful colors in the sky? That are the tracks of God. That is like what God leaves behind. That's kind of like His footprints. Evidence of God is in the sky and in nature, if you're willing to see it and accept it. Many times people's minds are closed to who God is, and they cannot even understand or accept that God exists. So things like that, when you look at the sky, you see God's handiwork. You see the beautiful use of color, and it's not just chemicals or science. There are things that are beyond science, like we mentioned before. Just like the other story I heard of once a while ago, people who first went up to space, the Russians, they went up, and when they came back down, people asked them, and it was published in the papers, like people asked them, did you see God? Is God up there? And the astronaut said, no, 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 nine. We looked for God, but we didn't see him. So in Russian papers, it was published that they looked for God, but they couldn't find him. They believe that God is somewhere in the sky. So basically, once and for all, it is settled. There's no God. But those who have eyes to see, they will have seen that God does exist, and that he's not visible to our human eyes. But creation, what he has created, is a display, evidence of his existence. In order for the world to make sense, we have to believe that there is a creator, and God is a creator. He rules and owns the world, and this beautiful world would not exist without him. So there's a hymn. I'm not sure if you know hymns, but there's a song long time ago, and these are the words: all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. So what is bright and beautiful? What does that mean? What does great and small, wonderful, all those words, right? What do they really mean? What is the truth that hymn, that song, is trying to reveal to us? And what's the author of that song conveying to us, right? It wasn't just random words. That song was put together musically, lyrically, by a person. So the whole world, we're talking about the whole world, our earth and the universe, and that's why the nice beautiful background behind me is all about the creator who made us. So that's the beautiful part, right? We talk about the existence of God, and one day we'll talk about the attributes of God in maybe a future video. But right now, we see the beautiful stuff, but there's also the ugly stuff. People like to point to the ugly and the unsightly things. Animals killing animals, and there's bloodshed. And anytime you watch those National Geographics or any of those nature shows, you see like animals hunting other animals and viciously killing them and hunting them, and group, maybe you have a group, maybe there's just one person, by sheer force they kill an animal, and then they drag it back to their pride, or what have they, the den or the cave, and they'll just feast and eat. So that's a famous saying. I'm not sure if you know about this, but nature red in tooth and claw, meaning nature is not all beautiful. there are unbeautiful, there are ugly things in nature as well. So if you think about it, right, yes, it's true, there are things like that, but these are not necessarily pointing to God, right? So the good stuff, I would say, point to God and his existence, and the ugly stuff points to us and what we have done with the world when we allowed, when Adam and Eve allowed Satan to deceive them, and they allowed sin to enter because they were disobedient to God. See, that caused this whole chain reaction that led to animals fighting other animals and hunting them and killing them, and the peace that the whole world had back in the day is gone now. It's unfortunate, but it is now, as the person said and described, nature is red in tooth and claw. So it is true that because of sin, all these things has happened, and not only to the animal kingdom, but also to the humankind. So we can still see God's creation, that he has kept it intact, and it's not like completely horrible, but it is fallen. And as we see it, we know that this is not what God intended for the world. Nature is beautiful in most parts, but there are ugly parts, and not everything in nature would reveal God, obviously. So I would say the beautiful stuff, but the ugly stuff reveal like the fallenness of the world and man and animals and everything in this world. So in the next section, I'm going to discuss more about Jesus and who Jesus is and how he is God's revelation, God's ultimate revelation to us, as described in the Old Testament and other things. And I'll get into that in the next video. So thank you again for watching this, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Have a great day. Bye for now.